The house was eerily silent. Outside, the December wind whispered through the barren trees, carrying the faint scent of pine and snow. Christmas lights twinkled faintly on the porch, but inside, the warmth that usually filled the home during the holidays was missing. They had left everyone. My family, my daughter, my son-in-law, even the grandchildren, all bundled up and gone on a Christmas trip, leaving me behind with a responsibility I never asked for and didn't want. I was left alone to take care of the one person I never expected to be stuck with during the holiday season. My son-in-law's stepfather, a man as cold and distant as the winter night outside. His name was Harold, and I had barely known him before this. A tall, stern man with a face carved by years of bitterness and regret. His eyes held stories I couldn't quite read, like frost on a window pane, opaque and chilling. The family's decision to leave me with Harold felt like a betrayal sharper than any winter frost. "Mom, please," my daughter had said hurriedly, packing her suitcase with nervous energy. "Harold can't be left alone, and with the kids, it's easier this way. You understand, right?" I nodded, though my heart clenched. Understand, how could I? It felt like they were sending me away, banishing me to a silent prison for the holidays. I was supposed to be celebrating Christmas with my loved ones, not playing nurse and mediator for a man who barely acknowledged my existence. As they pulled away in the car, laughter and voices fading behind the closed door, I stood by the window watching until their taillights disappeared down the snow-covered street. The house was empty except for Harold, who sat stiffly in the living room, staring blankly at the flickering television screen. I swallowed my resentment and forced a smile, stepping inside the cold room. "Hello, Harold, I'm here now. Let's make the best of this." He didn't look at me. "You don't have to pretend," he said quietly. "I know why they left you here." His words hit harder than I expected. It was true. I was the one they left behind, the one who wasn't needed enough to go, the one who was just. There that night, I lay awake in the guest room, the weight of loneliness pressing on my chest. Memories of past Christmases flooded my mind, laughter around the tree, warm hugs, shared secrets. Now there was only silence, broken occasionally by Harold's heavy breathing in the next room. But beneath the ache, something began to grow inside me, a quiet resolve. If they wanted to leave me behind, fine. I would show them that I was stronger than their betrayal. That, even alone, I could protect my family and maybe even mend the broken pieces they refused to face. Christmas had come and gone, but for me, the real story was just beginning. The days crept by like slow, moving shadows, each one heavier than the last. At first, Harold and I shared only silence and cold glances. His presence was a constant reminder of everything that felt broken, not just between us, but within the family that had abandoned me. I busied myself with small chores, setting the table, tidying the living room, and preparing meals, but the weight of loneliness never lifted. One afternoon, as a light snowfall began outside, I found Harold sitting by the window, staring at the sky as if searching for answers in the drifting flakes. Tentatively, I approached and asked Harold, "Would you like some tea?" He didn't answer immediately, just nodded. It was the first time he spoke to me in days. As I poured the steaming tea into 2 mugs, I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, we weren't destined to remain strangers in the same house. We sat in silence, the warmth of the tea between us softening the chill in the room. Eventually, Harold's voice broke through the quiet. "You know," he said slowly, "I wasn't always like this, hard, distant. I wasn't always frozen." I looked at him, surprised by the vulnerability in his tone. "What happened?" I asked gently. He sighed deeply, the lines on his face seeming to deepen. "Life, loss, mistakes I can't undo. My wife, my son's mother. She left me years ago, took her son with her. I never got to say goodbye, and I never really healed from it." For the first time, I saw Harold not as the cold stepfather, but as a man haunted by his own sorrow. I realized then how much pain must have shaped the man sitting before me. The walls he built around himself weren't just to keep others out. They were to protect a heart that had been shattered. Over the next few days, small moments began to weave a fragile thread between us. A shared smile over a burnt dinner, a quiet conversation about lost dreams, even a brief touch of understanding when he helped me carry firewood into the house. The house didn't feel quite so empty anymore, but amid the growing connection, a deeper truth gnawed at me. Why had my family truly left me here with Harold? Was it because they didn't trust me to handle things? Or was it because they wanted to distance themselves from the past, from the painful history Harold represented? I began to uncover hints of old family secrets, letters tucked away in drawers, whispered phone calls behind closed doors, and moments of discomfort when Harold's name was mentioned. It felt like they had tried to erase him, to forget the messiness he brought with him, and by extension, to forget me. That bitter realization fueled a fire inside me, not of hatred but of determination. I wouldn't let their betrayal define me. I would find a way to make things right, to heal the wounds they ignored. And most importantly, I would show them all that even when left alone, I was still the heart of this fractured family. Because sometimes the sweetest revenge isn't about punishment, it's about reclaiming your power and your love. Winter had settled deeply over the house and the town outside. Snow blanketed the streets, muffling the world in white silence, but inside, the tension was growing thick like a brewing storm. It wasn't just the weather that promised upheaval, it was the quiet plan forming inside me. The family's betrayal lingered like a bitter frost, but now I refused to be the powerless victim they expected. I had learned more about Harold's past, and more importantly, about the fractures in our family they desperately tried to hide. Their neglect, their refusal to face reality, their selfish escape to enjoy Christmas without the mess of Harold and me. It was time to make them listen. I started small. I wrote letters, not to accuse or lash out, but to remind each of them of the truth they buried. Letters that revealed things they had pretended to forget. Harold's pain, my loneliness, the family's fractured history. I left the letters where they would be found, on the kitchen table, slipped inside a book, or pinned to the Christmas tree. At first there was silence, no calls, no replies. I knew they were uncomfortable, because the truth is always uncomfortable when it's ignored for too long. Meanwhile, Harold and I grew into a strange, unspoken alliance. He wasn't the enemy anymore. He was a mirror reflecting the family's failures. We shared stories, regrets, and for the first time, a quiet understanding. I saw in him a man who had suffered alone, just as I had felt abandoned by those I loved. One evening, the power went out, the storm raging outside like the turmoil inside the house. We lit candles and sat by the fire, our shadows dancing on the walls. Harold looked at me, eyes softer than before. "You're stronger than I thought," he said quietly. "You could have let them break you, but you didn't." I nodded. "I'm not done yet, not until they know what they left behind." The next morning, the first family member returned unexpectedly, my daughter. She opened the door and froze at the sight of the house transformed. The letters, the warmth from the fire, the quiet presence of Harold, who looked different, somehow less a stranger, more a part of us. Tears welled in her eyes. "Mom, I didn't realize." That was the moment the storm truly broke. Conversations flooded in, difficult, painful, but necessary. The walls the family had built around their pain and denial began to crumble. Through it all, I stood firm, not as a victim, but as the heart that refused to be silenced. My revenge was not in anger or bitterness, but in truth, resilience, and love. I had taken what they threw away, neglect, betrayal, loneliness, and turned it into a force that demanded to be seen. The snow continued to fall outside, but inside, something new was stirring, a fragile hope, a chance for forgiveness, and the possibility that even the coldest winter could thaw with time. The house felt different now, not just because the snow had melted and the air carried the soft promise of spring, but because something deeper had shifted within its walls and within us all. When my family returned from their trip for good, the atmosphere was heavy with unspoken apologies and tentative hope. They found me not broken or bitter, but stronger than they ever imagined. Harold sat beside me in the living room, a quiet testament to the changes that had taken place. It was not an easy reunion. There were tears, raised voices, and moments where the old wounds threatened to open wider. But through it all, we spoke honestly for the first time in years. We shared stories we'd buried deep, stories of pain, regret, mistakes, and missed chances. My daughter's eyes shone with guilt as she whispered, "Mom, we left you alone because we thought it was easier, but we were wrong. We didn't understand what we were leaving behind." Harold's voice, once cold and distant, now carried a gentle warmth. I pushed everyone away because I was afraid to face my own failures. But staying here with you, you showed me that even a broken family can find a way back. I looked around the room, at the people who had once abandoned me but now stood before me, fragile and willing to rebuild. I realized then that the revenge I sought had already happened, not through pain or punishment, but through forgiveness and strength. I had taken the coldness and betrayal, and instead of letting them consume me, I transformed them into warmth and healing. The family was fractured, yes, but now it was also a family willing to try again. That Christmas, no grand trip or lavish celebration mattered. What mattered was the small moments, the shared meals, the quiet conversations by the fire, the laughter that slowly returned to our home. We had faced the storm together and come out on the other side changed. Harold helped me decorate the tree, his hands steady despite years of hardship. My daughter and son-in-law sat nearby, watching with cautious smiles. My grandchildren played with ornaments, their innocent joy a reminder of what we were fighting for. As the evening wore on, I felt a peace I hadn't known in a long time. The pain of betrayal still lingered, but it no longer held power over me. Instead, there was hope. A fragile, beautiful hope that this time we could heal. I caught Harold's eye and smiled. "Thank you for staying, for trying." He nodded. "Thank you for not giving up on us." In that moment, I knew the true meaning of revenge wasn't revenge at all. It was love, love that refuses to let go, love that endures even when everything else falls apart. And as the first snowflakes of a new winter began to fall outside, I felt the warmth of forgiveness wrap around us all, promising that no matter how cold the past, the future could still be bright.